black paint on top and the red paint on bottom. When this ship is completely full, all of that red paint will be submerged underwater. And I can tell you now that a lot of it's already underwater, so we know that it's about half full or half empty. Now this grain is not grown in Washington State. Washington State does grow grain, but it's the kind that you and I eat. This kind of grain is cattle grade grain or livestock grain. That's all grown in the Midwest. Where are my Midwesterners? I saw a few of you. Okay, all right, there you go. To tie my Midwesterners into the tour today, grain comes from your neck of the woods by train. It's loaded into those 60 grain silos, goes up the conveyor belt, down the chute, into the belly of the ship. That ship then sends it off to our Pacific Rim neighbors over in China, Japan, and South Korea. Grain from the Midwest is Seattle's #1 export. We ship up more Midwestern grain out of Seattle than anything else. Isn't that crazy? I grew up in Colorado, so when I first moved here, I always thought the #1 export was coffee. It just made sense to me at the time. I don't know. And then I got here and I realized that we don't export coffee, we just drink it all. Now, grain may be Seattle's #1 export or the region's #1 export when it comes to the amount we ship out. Does anybody want to guess what the region's #1 export is when it comes to making money? Shout out answers. Go ahead.
Tourism.
Wine is actually #5 if you pair wine and beer together. Yeah. Anybody else? Yeah, that's a very good guess. In fact, that's correct. It's machinery, mostly aircraft. There you go. Boeing. Pretty cool. #2 is software, things like that, Microsoft and Amazon. #3 is seafood, things like that. A lot of people, first thing they'll shout out is tourists. Like, we don't export you. Another common answer, that's someone, I think they're just messing with me, they shout rain. Like, we eat that for ourselves. All right, out to our right, folks, we're approaching Smith Cove. Smith Cove is over Piers 90 and 91. Pier 90 says C-175 on it, and this is leased out to the American Seafood Corporation. In fact, you can see one of their vessels tied to the pier right now in a blackish blue white on there. Now, American Seafoods, they go out to the Pacific Ocean and they catch fish, like hake, pollock, and cod. Cod being a very popular fish, you probably had it in fish and chips. Pollock, another very popular fish for people to buy, but not to sell, not for them to eat, but to sell to you. American Seafoods, oh, by the way, if you don't want to be grossed out, go ahead and put your ears around. American Seafoods catches pollock. They grind it up into a fine, odorless, tasteless paste, and they sell that, and they make about $1 billion a year. No, I didn't mess up my words. Yes, $1 billion a year off this fish. The reason why people are buying it is because being an odorless, tasteless paste, they can add whatever spices they want, and they can taste like anything. Imitation crab meat is made from pollock. If you ever go to a fast food restaurant and have filet-o-fish at McDonald's, that's made from Alaskan pollock. There's a lot of other things that are really not cool that I just found out recently, and I'm going to spare you guys the details. But if you want to know later on my break. Anyway, so yeah, that's where they park. Pier 91 has the gray building on top and the white tent there. This is Seattle's second cruise ship terminal. This is where we have up to 2 cruise ships parked here at any given time from May through October. And we saw one yesterday at Carnival Cruise Lines in the town, mostly on the weekends, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. Now also up to our right here, we're approaching a large marina. This is Elliott Bay Marina, and this is a private marina, very fancy, really expensive if you want to park your boat here. But being a private marina and pretty expensive, it comes with a lot of amenities. Of course, you have on-call hairstylists that can come down to your boat just in case you went sailing and messed up your hair. There's a 4-star restaurant at their marina called Palisade Restaurant. In fact, that's where President Obama, he was in town, said it was the Pacific Northwest Experience. They even have an on-call diver that will come to the marina just in case you drop something in the water, like something that you really want back. Now, when I thought about this, I was like, okay, what things would the diver go down for? Car keys, boat keys, right? Wedding rings, depending on how important your marriage is. Then other things like that, right? Jewelry. Well, we talked to the diver. In fact, it's the same diver that helps Argosy out when we get things tangled up in our props. Yeah, he says the #1 thing he goes down for is cell phones. If you drop your cell phone in 40 feet of water, it's not going to work. Unless you have that new iPhone in which there's an app. That's a new joke I'm trying. Good.
That's one of the corny jokes.
Now, folks, if you want to take some really great photos, everyone look off the left-hand side. It's my favorite view of the downtown city skyline. Also, another cool sight we're going to see. If you look at the south end of Elliott Bay, just above the cranes, you'll notice that Mount Rainier is peeking out over the clouds. See the mountain down there? Kind of looks like a cloud, but it's not. Mount Rainier is 14,411 feet tall. It is a volcano just southeast of Seattle. So again, south end of the bay, just look above the cranes, just to the right of the red cranes, you'll see this little mountain poking over the top of the clouds. Again, that's Mount Rainier. Mount Rainier is one of 5 different volcanoes in Washington State. Let's name them off, why don't we? Starting near the Canadian border, working our way south, we have Mount Baker, Glacier Peak, Mount Rainier, which is visible today. And then right behind Mount Rainier, Mount Adams. And then our most famous volcano, Mount St. Helens, which erupted in May of 1980, 35 years ago this last May. You know, I just discovered on my phone, I've had a smartphone for a while, but I just realized that if you go in the camera feature, if you go to settings, there's a thing called panorama. You guys have that on your phones? Okay, start at like the grain terminal and work your way over to Mount Rainier, and it turns out to be a really awesome photo. Now I'll talk about the skyline in just a little bit. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the water that we're traveling on. Off to our left, towards the city of Seattle, this is all Elliott Bay. This is where we're doing our giant circle. And do watch your step. Occasionally we'll bounce around, you guys. You're going to experience that here in just a second, so watch your step. Off to our right-hand side, towards Bainbridge Island, this is all known as the Puget Sound. Now, what is the difference between a bay and a sound, you might ask? A bay only has one opening into a larger body of water. A sound has 2 or more openings into an even larger body of water, which can only be saltwater. Elliott Bay off to our left opens up into the Puget Sound off to our right. The Puget Sound opens up into the Pacific